In this video, I'm going to be covering the asset store and how to use it to add the standard assets, which is kind of like the base for all of our games, to the Unity editor. So the asset store can be found right here. Alternatively, if you don't see it, you can go Window, Asset Store, and that'll pop it up. So if I go to the asset store, there's all kinds of things that are on here that we can look at and add. I'm going to type in standard assets. And the first result by Unity Technologies is the result that I want. You may have to sign in on this store, but this is where you can buy and sell assets for people to use. So there's loads of things on here for free. I'll just say right now for this class, I don't really want you using anything from this store except for these standard assets unless you ask your instructor and get it approved. It's kind of borderline plagiarism to use like preset models and things like that. And it's going to be pretty obvious if you do use assets that aren't your own. And the class is really about learning how to design a game yourself. So the Unity Technologies standard assets just has this simple import button. I think it might have a different button if you've never used it before, but obviously I've used it on this account before. So I'm going to click import. And what happens is it preps what's called a Unity package. And a Unity package is kind of like a Unity project compressed for you to use. So you might have to download it first and then click import. I think that's actually how the process goes. But eventually it'll pull up this import Unity package window. We can twirl down the different folders, and these folders are going to be directly added to our assets as part of our project. And that's great, but we don't really need about 90% of these. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck sample scenes just completely and twirl that closed. So the sample scenes would be a bunch of test projects that we could look at. We're not going to use any of those. Then we have the standard assets folder right here. The standard assets folder has a bunch of folders within it, such as 2D, cameras, characters. We're going to uncheck 2D. We're going to uncheck cameras. We're going to uncheck effects, environment, fonts, particle systems, physics materials, prototyping, utility, vehicles, basically everything except for characters, cross-platform input, and editor. The characters folder has things in it that we're going to be using, such as the first-person character, but we can uncheck rollerball and uncheck third-person character. So a first-person character, a first-person perspective video game is one that's from the first person. A third person is, a view from outside of the body. Under cross-platform input, we're going to go ahead and just leave all of this stuff in here for now. Cross-platform input is largely used to create controls for mobile devices and things like that. And then we have the editor, which we need to uncheck water, and we're just going to leave the cross-platform input initialize folder. So that's our standard assets folder. I'm going to go ahead and hit import. And it'll take a little bit, but it'll import all those files. So I imported that standard assets folder, like I said, and I got an error. And this error has to be fixed before we can move on. And I want to show you how I'm going to fix that error, because at any time we can come back to the asset store and import additional assets from that folder, which we're going to do throughout these tutorials. So to fix that error, I just wanted to show you how this works. I'm going to hit import again. It's going to pull up that window. I'm going to do the same process again and just uncheck everything. And what I need to do is actually add in a folder that we didn't add in the first time, which is called utilities. So we're going to add that utility folder back in. So I just need to check that utility and go ahead and hit import. But you can see how you can import and re-import assets doing that process. Once we import that utility folder, that should correct any of the errors that you have. And at the bottom of my screen, it's just a yellow error. If I go to the console tab and hit clear, I have no errors and I'm good to go. If I want to test this out, I can just hit the play button and my project compiles, meaning that it works. So I'm good to go and start using these different assets. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to actually pull an asset from here in what's called a prefab and drop it into our scene to create our first interactive game.